Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. As always, this is your host, Scott McKay. You can find me all over social media, usually at Scott McKay, with the exception of Instagram. They're the outlier out there, where I'm at Real Scott McKay. With me today is a longtime friend of mine. Man, I guess he and I go back 7 or 8 years now. He is the proprietor over at the Mountaintop Lodge in North Georgia. Love the name of that place for some reason. And also the author of a book called Legendary, which a lot of you guys have read and given me great reviews on. And if you're looking for even more good reviews than that, you'll find those at Amazon. As a matter of fact, if you're listening to this particular episode within a week or so of when it's originally released, you can also find Tommy's book at the top of my Amazon influencer queue, which is at mountaintoppodcast.com/Amazon. Tommy Breedlove from Northern Georgia. Welcome back, man.
Scott, my old friend, greetings from the beautiful Appalachian Mountains of North Georgia. I think one of the most underrated places on earth and one of the most beautiful places on earth. My old friend, I am humbled and honored to be here. And thank you, as always, for being you, my friend.
Oh, well, yeah, man. The pleasure is mutual. And by the way, you've now called me your old friend twice. We were on video before we started, both of us sporting gray beards nowadays.
Gravity's winning, my friend. And I keep deciding, let me just own it here. I keep deciding whether I need to diet or not, but I think, we can get away with some pepper every now and then. I want to stay sexy, man. I'm looking at my 50th year on earth this year.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm feeling pretty salty more than peppery myself nowadays. Probably in more ways than one, according to my wife, when I haven't eaten all day,
Oh, yeah.
But probably is extremely pertinent to our topic du jour, which is protecting your reputation as a man. Tommy, this has been on my radar screen for a while, not only the concept, but the reality of it, right? But, I needed the right guest. You're it. This is something that a lot of guys don't ever really think about or pay attention to until, well, it's too late. Then they realize, wow, should I ever have paid attention to this, right? Am I onto something?
You're onto something big time, brother.
Yeah, so what happens is we as men think we got things going. We try to keep the shiny side up. Most of us, at least the kind of guys who would listen to an episode like this with you and me, want to do the right thing in life and make the world a better place. But your reputation can be fragile and it can disappear on you and really never come back. How would you define your reputation first? I think that's probably a good place to start, don't you think?
I do. And you're talking to a guy, and we can go more into this, who has lost his reputation badly at one time in his life and slowly over time has built it back. So I feel like I'm an appropriate guest for this by making all of the wrong decisions. And what I would first say is, gentlemen, let's never let people who don't matter. But for the people who do matter in our lives, let's protect and defend our reputations like there is no other. But for me, our reputation, right, wrong, or indifferent, is how we are perceived by the people, our stakeholders, our customers and clients, the people we serve, our employees, our colleagues, our wives, and our friends, how they perceive us to be, and more importantly, how not just what we say, what we do. And to me, our reputation is a direct correlation in what we do in our lives, our day-to-day operations, our day-to-day decisions, and our day-to-day actions. Because we can say our reputation is this. We can say we believe in this, but if we say one thing and do another, that means our reputation is at stake. So for me, is walking the walk and doing what you say you're going to do as best you can. But I would also say, understand that all men are flawsome. We're flawed and awesome. So let's give ourselves credit. And gentlemen, when people, our friends, breach core values or we breach our core values, own it, ask for forgiveness, learn from it, grow from it, walk forward. But let's not get caught up in this nonsense BS cancellation culture. that people get canceled because they make mistakes, because we're all going to make mistakes. We all need to have grace. We all need to have dignity. But we need to do the best we can by honoring our core values every day, honoring our non-negotiables every day, walking, not only talking the talk, but also walking the walk the best we can. And finally, Scott, I think it's important, and don't send me hate email because I don't care, but we need to understand that most men, not all men, I'm going to say most men are motivated by power, respect, and status. Power, respect, and status, and we fear embarrassment. But we also know that power, respect, and status comes from how others perceive us, our significant other who we attract in life, and what we do. And sometimes, and more often than not, we sacrifice our core values in the name of power, respect, or status. So let's just start there, my brother. And there's probably a whole lot that we could riff on from that.
Oh, man. You warmed this up in a hurry, didn't you? There's a lot we could talk about there, and it was all absolutely stone cold, right on the money, man. Yeah, you hit that one out of the park already. All right, let's talk about, first of all, your core values, making the right decisions, etc. If you don't know who the hell you are, Tommy, if you don't know what those core values even are, then it would be hard to build any kind of real, honest-to-goodness, consistent reputation, i.e. the perception others have of you, the lens they view you through, without that, right? So, I mean, all these guys who have, as I would say, no character, they don't know what they believe. They just will say yes to whatever person's in front of them trying to fit in. They will already be cultivating a reputation of kind of being a sheeple rather than being someone with a core character. And I don't think those people ever get the respect you're talking about. And by the way, no hate mail from me there. I absolutely think we as guys want to be respected, just like women want to be loved and made to feel protected. And since you unloaded so many amazingly salient points there all at once, that's how men feel comfortable in the context of a romantic, relationship-y kind of situation with a woman. And I talk about the big four. These guys know what that is. And some guys kind of raise their eyebrows that making a man feel safe and comfortable is also a feature of the female big four. And a lot of guys will be real macho and stoic and go, I don't need some woman to protect me. I protect myself. Well, that's not really what I'm talking about. There's more to feeling safe and secure than simply taking a bullet for someone else or knocking out some bully before he can get to her. Like a woman would like to think we could do, right? And indeed, there's more dimension to it for us as guys. If we're demeaning a woman, making her feel unintelligent, making her feel like she doesn't matter, she's not going to feel safe. And certainly that doesn't involve any physical sacrifice on our part, right? That's simply us being a boneheaded boyfriend. But when women flirt with the waiter, when you're out with them, when they say bad things about you behind your back, when they say bad things to your friends about who you are and try to demean you in public, when they start embarrassing scenes in public places. Man, I saw some poor bastard having to deal with that just the other day.
God help him.
It's striking when you see it. All of those are ways that women make us feel unsafe. So, yeah, it is a two-way street. And when we don't feel safe with a woman, we feel slighted and disrespected most of the time. That's what's causing that lack of safety. So that core value system, not only people around us, but the woman we're with or the prospective kind of woman we want to be with, right? If we don't know who the hell we are, how do we know the kind of woman we're going to attract other than, oh, she had a nice ass, even though she was batshit crazy? I mean, we don't know who we're going to get. So life is that
whole hot to crazy matrix, right?
Oh, yeah. That is well documented around here. I don't know how true it is, but it sure is hilarious. Matter of fact, I think you and I have discussed it together.
Yeah, indeed.
But without a foundation, you have nothing to build a reputation on, not only with people you do business with, not only with people you do business for, but with the women in your life. And I would dare say even with yourself. Maybe the first place to build a reputation is in our own noggin. I mean, do we trust ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a high opinion of our ability to be honored and respected? Man, that's pretty deep, isn't it?
It's real deep, brother. Real deep. And I think the number one failure in business leadership and in our relationships with our women, our friends, is self-awareness. is truly knowing thyself. And I'm not just talking about the arena that we play in every day, our work, our homes. I'm talking about our unknown potential, our blind spots, and also the masks that we wear. And something that we do so well in our legendary leadership retreats is helping, these ambitious men not only know the arena that they're playing in every day, know their unknown potential, also know the mask, that armor and that BS, tough guy, funny guy, important guy, life of the party guy, but also knowing our blind spots so that we can truly know ourselves better, lead, love, and respect ourselves better so that we can lead, love, and respect others fully. And I think it starts with self-awareness. So many of us are lost from a purpose standpoint. So many of us lost of who I am, where am I going, who's coming with me. So many of us are unclear as to those things. And I think it's super important for us as men to really understand, know thyself, so that we can level up day by day by day, so that we can go from ignorance to awareness. And awareness is a mother, man, because awareness will either be a shame monster that holds you down or something that you can build on and transform. And so I think it's absolutely clear to know who we are, truly know who we are, where we're going, and who's coming with us. And I want to play off of something you just said. The most dangerous man on earth is a rageful, jealous man. And if you don't think safety is important to you, tough guys, from your spouse or significant other, and your spouse and significant other can be the greatest asset in your life or the most giant liability you've ever seen, so choose wisely. So just know, man, I'm telling you, the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous forces on earth is a rageful man. And you add jealousy to a rageful man, that is a stew of look out. And you talk about reputation and breaching your core values and making big mistakes. Whew, it's there. So I'll leave it at that, Scott.
Yeah, well, we're the leaders in a relationship, whether we like it or not, I might add. A lot of these guys running around complaining about women and all women are terrible, blah, blah, blah. A lot of them need to look in the mirror, don't they, Tommy? Because they've led. If you got guys who don't like women, you can't expect women to like you.
That's right.
If you're being this jealous, rageful guy, rageful, there's a word for you, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
If you're that guy, you're leading. She's going to get jealous in return. She's going to get angry at you. And then you're probably likely going to say to yourself, and maybe out loud, and display your Dunning-Kruger effect to the entire internet by saying, hey, all women are like this. When all of us who are in the know are going to go, dude, you need to look in the mirror.
No doubt.
It's showing. And women aren't jealous and rageful. They aren't going to try to embarrass you in public. They aren't going to try to cheat on you unless you've made the wrong decision for the wrong woman. And a lot of that starts with looking in the mirror and saying, who should I be with? What values are important to me? Now, I'm not a Pollyanna. I do think there are women out there who are damaged beyond repair probably before we even get to them, and they can fool us. But I'm telling you, if you have a pattern of a really nice girl turning into a raging, jealous monster who doesn't like you time and time again in a relationship situation, I would think you definitely need to look in the mirror. And if you don't know who the hell you are and you don't know what you're about, then don't come complaining to either you or me when it isn't working out. And chances are, by the way, Tommy, it won't be just your relationships with women. That will go across the board in your life, right? That's why a lot of times when guys can't control their families, they're not deemed worthy to control a business or to be promoted or to be elected to office. I think there's a lot of power there. I want to go back to something else you said because I think it's a nice segue here. And you mentioned that cringeworthy term, cancel culture.
It's the worst.
There's a big difference between an attempt to cancel you and losing your reputation, isn't there?
Agreed. Yep. One is just usually based on the opinions of somebody that probably doesn't matter in your life anyway. And the other is actually breaching core values that you believe in and hold so dear. So losing your reputation is a breach of core values. It's where we go outside of our non-negotiables. It's where we do something out of what we would normally do, probably on the pursuit of power, which could be sexual affairs. It could be needing to be affirmed, or it could be, breaching what we would do in a business or contractual scenario, probably for a little bit more money, which is going to, when we're going to do something that we don't deem as right. And so, we don't always make the right decisions. We sometimes make really bad decisions in a moment, off of lust, off of power, off of greed, off of respect, off of status. And, because we come from where we come from, we got to own that we're craving that status. We want to be, because in the good old days, that's what got us laid. It's what protected us. And it's what also got us to the head of the tribes. And sometimes when we shoot for those things at the cost of everything else, which I have done, we end up losing it all on the pursuit of more. And so that there's a very big difference between cancellation culture, which is just bullying on steroids, and then, losing our reputations, which we hold so dear. And I will say we have to be careful as men. And I couldn't complete more, and I want to riff off of something you just said. If something is lacking in your life, it could be your sex life, it could be your happiness, it could be your relationship, lack of relationship, success, leadership, business, the things that you want, the experiences that you want to have, go find the nearest mirror. And that is the biggest problem and the biggest solution. It's just, what are you going to do to participate in your own rescue? What are you going to do to level up? And the only person that can fix it is you. And the only power you truly have on earth is choice. So choose to go do something about it, man up, level up. And by the way, those of you listening who are projecting that all women are bad, that is a form of cancellation, man. Because you've had bad experiences, probably because you weren't where you're supposed to be, or you didn't love or lead yourself the most. You're projecting onto all women because you've had one bad experience, but maybe your bad experience was because of the choices you make. So I'll just leave it at that. And Scott, you're on to something here, brother.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't like an entire cross-section of the population because of an inherent difference between that cross-section of the population and themselves basically is no different than a racist.
Yeah,
because that's what racism is.
Great.
Right? So someone could say, well, I think all women are terrible or all men are terrible. And that is hate that typically comes from bad experiences with a few people and ignorance as to how much similarity we have between people if we would just talk to each other and get to know each other. It's all fear-based, I think this idea of the difference between being canceled and losing one's reputation is the crux of the matter here, frankly. Not only because of the current zeitgeist of the culture nowadays, but because I think it's going to be the most confusing element potentially of this particular topic to most of us, myself included. So I'm thinking out loud as I talk to you. If you really know who you are, let's start here. If you really know who you are, what you're about, and you feel passionately about that message and that purpose, chances are there are going to be people who not only disagree with you, but feel as if they must fight that message and keep it from seeing the light of day. When the latter type of people try to destroy you, try to demean your character, that is to be expected. Those people may shout from the rooftops, "Ha! I've just ruined this person's character. I've just canceled them." They may even use terms like checkmate, you lose, you're done, you're over. And they'll do this on Twitter over and over again. But if they're the people who don't agree with you and need your message not to be heard by anybody else, that's not your reputation being lost. That's you showing evidence of character. That kind of quote unquote cancellation attempt will most likely, Tommy, only make you stronger in the eyes of those supporting you and your message and help the people see you with more respect who you would like to actually earn more respect from. I think that is a huge, huge factor here that can't be, shouted from the rooftops enough. What do you think?
I can't agree with you more. And if you're not getting any kind of pushback or hating or people aren't listening, it's because, you're not standing and fighting for anything. And I think we need to welcome people wanting to cancel us. I think we need to welcome haters. That means we're fighting and standing for something. And I would ask everybody here, where do you want to plant your flag? What are your non-negotiables? What would you fight for and fight against? And let me tell you a great example here in Georgia, and they don't give a flying flip. And it doesn't matter to me and it really doesn't matter to them, whether you like their politics or religion. But let me tell you who doesn't play around with that at all. It's Chick-fil-A. And they are based here in Atlanta, in Georgia. And they don't give a flying flip what you think about their politics or religion, and they will fight and stand for it at all costs. And they are laughing all the way to the bank. They're probably going to sell $15 billion worth of chicken sandwiches because you know exactly who they are. And by the way, they want you to dislike them. They want you to go to Burger King or McDonald's. They don't care because they're going to stand where they stand. They're going to fight for what they fight, and they're going to believe in what they believe in. And I think that's what makes this world a great place. And if you're trying to people please, how exhausting is that? If you're trying to make everybody happy, how exhausting is that? And it means you just don't love yourself enough to stand for something that you believe in. And I just, that to me just seems exhausting. And when we start getting haters and we start getting pushback, and we start getting, people fighting against us, that means we're doing something. That means we're standing for something. And at the end of the day, we all have one thing in common, is that we're going to die, and we don't talk enough about that. But you can die with no regrets, your head up, shoulders back, and hopefully a heart full of gratitude, man. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Now, on the part of Chick-fil-A, I do not have any direct experience working with the company, but I have at least 2 acquaintances who are involved with Chick-fil-A, and they say that level of character you see from them is across the board. Mm-hmm. They treat the people who work for them and the people who run their restaurants, employees and customers, with the kind of respect that they allegedly believe in, which is coming from, for guys who don't know this, they're coming from a Christian-based belief system. They're not open on Sundays, et cetera. So they're already
very conservative, Christian-based. Yep.
They're losing 1/7 of their potential revenue every week by being closed on Sunday. So, I mean, that's the level of this business's belief system and what they say they're about. Hobby Lobby is another one. You famously can't go buy model rocket engines or paint for your model cars, testers paint on Sunday. You better get it done on Saturday because the Hobby Lobby is going to be closed. Very, very, very true. Now, on the other hand, if you are trying to do the right thing and you have a sense of character, you want to leave the world a better place, chances are you'll have a rock solid reputation with the people you want to have that reputation with. But if you're pulling a snow job on these people and there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and you're not exactly who you said you were going to be and you were trying to fleece the masses, that will catch up with you and ruin your character. We just saw that in the case, you mentioned politics. We just saw that in the case of freshman Representative George Santos from New York. I think just about everybody agreed that guy had to go because he completely misrepresented most everything and was lining his own pockets. And it's hard for even, political hacks who are trying to keep up appearances and keep the number of votes up for the sake of, political power, right? To even keep him involved. So when, people in your own party are turning their backs on you, that is clearly a loss of reputation. So character absolutely has got to be the cornerstone of what you're building a reputation on. And you've already covered that very well. But, and here comes a huge but, right? All capital letters, right? It's incredibly horrifying to me how quickly someone can lose their entire reputation in one moment. When the heat starts getting turned up, and when the money and the opportunity and the potential for power starts getting turned up, right? It's amazing how people who have had really good character and been masters or mistresses, right, of holding their reputation intact, start cutting corners a little bit and start, losing it because so much is at stake. I'm reminded, first of all, of the first time back in my first sales job when there was $1 million deal at stake. And basically it started turning into Cannonball Run, and it's a mad, 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 mad world out there. Everybody all of a sudden had no character anymore. It was every man for themselves, stabbing your buddies in the back who you used to go have a beer with, trying to get this deal. It was pathetic. And nobody, it seems, is immune from this. And here's the example I really, really want to throw down and get your opinion on here. As we're recording this very recently, we had presidents of Ivy League universities sitting before Congress being asked if they believe that an anti-Semitic rally where they're calling for the genocide of Jews should be something they shouldn't allow on their campuses. And you saw presidents of universities, Ivy League universities. You want to talk about reputation. You want to talk about influence. You want to talk about people who've got to be above board. You saw those people try to double talk their way out of admitting that so hard that it was not only cringeworthy, it was downright laughable, Tommy. Yeah. And 2 out of the 3 have lost their jobs because of the backlash from that. And it's because simply they couldn't stand up and say what they believed in for fear of something.
Agreed.
Man,
agreed.
You know what's sobering about that is that means none of us are absolutely immune, depending on how hot the pressure gets. What do we do with that knowledge?
So let's just own, and we haven't said the words. We were talking about money changes us. The need for people to, love us doesn't change for us. And we never threw in there, add a hot, young, new girl involved in the mix. And, a lot of men can make some really bad decisions, including this guy in his past. So,
right.
So we didn't even talk about that. We've been skating around it, but that is a draw for a lot of us. And so let's just own that as well. But what's amazing to me is if those people, and I'll just say it like that. So I will say this, it's not if we're going to screw up and breach core value, it's when. And we got to own that. It's never the affair or the breach of core value, it's the lying about it that really gets people at the end of the day. And let's take a step back. All of us that are listening to this, we need to have some grace and some dignity. If someone makes a mistake and owns it and works hard at getting better from that mistake, we've got to love them and forgive them because it's going to happen to us as well. We've got to stop this, judging. You said it earlier, judging an entire book by a bad chapter. We've got to stop doing that as a society. And we've got to allow people to move on. Otherwise, the only alternative is for them to go in their lives. And and we're seeing that, and that's ridiculous. We're definitely seeing it from young people. But let's go back to those presidents. If they would have just stood their ground and actually said what they believed in, what their heart believes in, what their core value is, and what their non-negotiable. And if they would have just stood there with some ovaries or some balls and stood their ground, they might have lost their job, but they would have gained a whole lot more. Someone else would have hired them. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just, you got to stand for something. You can't people please. You can't cancel, and you certainly can't say an entire sector of human beings or a religion or a culture or a race. We've got to lead with love, man. And when you allow people to do hate rallies of any type, you're not standing for anything, because our hearts and souls know better. We all humans want the same thing. We want to be seen, loved, heard, valued, and free. Seen, heard, loved, valued, and free. And for those of us who want to protect our reputations, we've got to stand for something. And if those people would have just stood up, head up, shoulders back, and say, no, this is what I believe and why I believe that, they might have lost their job, but they certainly wouldn't have lost their reputation. So let's just be clear on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a couple things to discuss there. First of all, when you're not consistent, in other words, rules for me, but not for thee, or rules for certain social groups, but not others, or we hold certain things to a high standard and let other things slip. That's when the people who maybe have valued your message, treated you with respect, and honored you and held your reputation in high esteem start turning on you because of the inconsistency. All of a sudden, you're not believable anymore. The honor has up and left. The other thing I think that goes along with it would be kind of like almost a mirror image of that, a Bud Light situation, for example, where you start dying on hills no one's ever asked you to die on. Like, why would you bring that up? Why would you start taking a position on this thing? You may believe it strongly, but it has nothing to do with that core message of yours. If I started talking about Fords and Dodges and Chevys and don't listen to this show anymore unless you drive this pickup truck, and if you don't drive a pickup truck at all, don't bother kind of thing, I would just chase away a whole bunch of people I had no business even chasing away. And people do that nowadays. And I think it is also character based when you start seeing things like that happen, because people get fooled into believing something matters when it really doesn't. And that, like I said, is kind of the mirror image of treating something that matters as if it doesn't, maybe in the moment. Oh, I can get away with some infidelity, even though I'm a teacher on relationships or on Christianity or something like that. And people just aren't going to be that forgiving. You're kidding yourself. I think the best way to wrap up this conversation, since we've now been pretty clear on that part of it, is to address the elephant in the room here, which is we live in a culture where the cell phones go up anytime something controversial is happening. You know, you kind of mentioned it a little bit. You know, you talked about self-awareness, right? You got to know when there's a hot mic. You got to know when there's a camera. You got to know when, hey, this gets to a certain point where someone's going to talk about your temper and your little problems. We have to live our lives, Tommy, as if there's a hot mic on and that there's a camera trained on us. In the sport that my kids are involved with, on the biggest stage of all, one of the legends of this sport going back to the 80s, just very recently, forgot the cameras were on. And he did something in the heat of the moment during competition that literally caused everybody to lose all respect for him, and he's probably not going to get it back. And it happened in under 5 seconds. And the interesting thing was watching him on social media not really know what to do with that. So first there was this huge apology. Then there was a doubling down on what he did and say, hey, that's who I am. I got to own it. Then there was, wait, you know what? I didn't mean to say that either. And he's getting all this bad advice, or at least contrary advice from different people on how to handle the situation and acting on it all, because he wasn't ready in his own mind to act on it. He wasn't ready for that moment. It snuck up on him. My first thought is, hey, I got to own my mistake, and here's how I'm going to do better. But man, you know, you remember Ray Rice from the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody was like, oh yeah, you know what? He slapped his girlfriend in an elevator. Suspend him for a game or two. He'll be all right. He'll dry out. Then everybody saw the video and his career's over. In closing here, talk to me about the hot mic syndrome and how we as men can be more careful without perhaps being paranoid, or maybe you might think we need to be paranoid. What do we need to be extra vigilant of in today's age to keep from losing our reputation in the moment?
Yeah, and I think you've said a whole lot here. I want to go back before I answer that direct question. And I think as men and women and as a society, we got to do better of looking at the story and not the moment. And we got to be careful not to condemn and exclude, even in the worst of the worst situations, because I am a believer with the right choices, with the right mentors, with the right leadership, with the right accountability, that people can change their stripes and they can do better. The alternative is that they go away. And I think we got to show mercy. We got to hold them account. They've got to hold themselves to account. They've got to learn from it, grow from it, and move on, because it's not if we're going to make mistakes, it's when. So I just want to say that we got to get better at mercy. We've got to get better at forgiveness, but they have to earn that back, right? We just don't give it. I'm not a here give you a fifth place trophy or, oh, that was one time thing. No, own it, move on, get account, and grow from it, and actually show me that you will be better and do better. So we got to be better at that as a society. The hot mic syndrome. You're talking to a guy who's written a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling book that I will never live up to. So this is raw and real with me. I'll never live up to the standards and the teachings. I hope to. I aspire to. I work my ass off at it to get there. But I will never be the human being in those pages. I will make mistakes. And there is a hot mic on. There is a cell phone. Everything is being recorded right now. It's on the streets. It's in people's hands. Every time you walk into a restaurant, you're on video, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get bigger and worse, and we just have to know that. What we have to do our best at is do our best at surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up and make us better. The problem when we're in darkness, and the problem when we're in pain, and the problem when we're isolating, especially as men, we like to surround ourselves with people that are similar to that. We like to surround ourselves with people in pain. And when we're isolating, we're losing. Isolation is the enemy of excellence. So we have to be very mindful on, and I say this all the time, and my mentor says this, Show me your habits and the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I will tell you your future. So it starts with the habits of every day of how we prioritizing ourselves to be stronger mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. We have to work on those muscles first thing every day. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. If you don't think we're mentally, emotionally, and spiritually weak, look at Facebook, TikTok, reality TV, and 24-hour news. We are weak and we are sheeple. So every day when we get up, if we prioritize ourselves first, our hearts, minds, souls, and bodies, we will make better decisions. We will live in our core values. We will, when the fire comes or when we will make a mistake, we will run to it and stand in it and own it because we will be strong. And you need to be mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually strong because that will help you make better decisions. That will help you not do something really stupid. And that will help you just to be a better leader and human being overall. Number 2, it is critical about who you hang out with. If you hang out with 5 people who are drinking heavy, you're going to drink heavily. And the chances of you making a bad mistake when you've had, whether it's an affair, a fight, saying something you regret, you've got to be critical of who you spend. If you're with abundant, net-giving people who root for you, you are more likely to make better decisions. So I think it starts with prioritizing yourself, knowing who you are, and getting stronger every day inside and out. I think it's critical for you to surround yourself with the right people and to know that a lot of people out there want to see you fail. A lot of people want to put you in a situation for you to fail. But if you are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually strong, if you are surrounded by people who root for you, who are abundant net givers and who lift you up and make you better, the likelihood of you making a catastrophic mistake diminishes. But no, it can still happen. But the moment that happens, own it. Own it. Be held accountable for it. You hold yourself accountable for it. You take the heat and pressure, whatever comes. But knowing no matter what, whether it's a business mistake, a life mistake, a relationship mistake, nothing cannot be overcome. Nothing cannot be rebuilt. You've just got to own it, grow from it, and show people and earn their respect and trust back. But I think you got to know it's out there. You got to know people want to do harm to you. But the stronger you are inside, the more good people you hang out with, core valued people who are just like you, the less likely that will become. But when it comes, and if it comes, just hold yourself accountable. Say, I know it. I owned it. This is why it happened. This is how, I'll do better next time. And I'm going to show you. That's what I would say to that, Scott.
Boom. There's your mic drop right there. I think you said it all. Indeed. Going into 2024 here, there are a lot of people on Twitter who live in glass houses and are throwing plenty of rocks. That's the world we live in. And I think you pretty much just summed up what to do about it.
Yeah.
His name is Tommy Breedlove. He is a man on this show probably for the 3rd or 4th time at least. He and I have had wonderful conversations on freedom and lots of other topics over the years. This one is certainly no exception. You can find his book that neither he nor I are ever going to live up to, called Legendary, when you go to mountaintoppodcast.com/legendary, or you'll also find it at the top of my Amazon storefront, which you can go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Amazon and find straight away. Tommy Breedlove from North Georgia. Thanks, man. Once again, great conversation.
Love you, brother.
Yeah, man. Gentlemen, go to mountaintoppodcast.com. Check out the new audios, Women and AI, and also Yes and, which is my newest information on how to approach women, make conversations with them, and get them attracted, get their numbers, go out with them, make plans. All brand new stuff post-COVID based on how society is right now. I got my finger on the pulse of this, and I've compiled it all for you in that little audio program called Yes and. Also, get on the phone with me for 25 or 30 minutes. Let's talk about where you are right now with the women who should be in your life. That call is free to schedule at mountaintoppodcast.com. While you're there, please also check out our sponsors, Origin in Maine, Heroes Soap, and the Keyport. As always, when you use the coupon code Mountain10, you get an additional 10% off at checkout. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for The Mountaintop Podcast.